Hi everyone, welcome back to Marketing Hooks podcast. Today we have a special guest in the studio. It's not a real studio, but let's imagine that it's a studio. It's I have someone who is an international business coach and success coach, best-selling author, award-winning speaker, and head of marketing at Goldcast, which I'm really interested about to ask you about. Please welcome Samantha Kris.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Alex.
Thanks a lot for taking your time out of your busy schedule. I really enjoyed talking to you. I love the event, the online event that you created a couple of months ago with digital awards. Let's put it that way. That was a lot of fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, brought the community together. It's really great what you've been doing for the community itself.
It's really important, like especially at the time that we did it, I was at a time where there's still a lot of uncertainty, but there were not so many smiling faces. There were a lot of concerned faces. There were a lot of people who didn't know what was going to happen and really in need of something positive. And so, yeah, we spun up the virtual awards for the Bossing Up community as a way just to celebrate each other. And I think it was really well received.
It was amazing. I loved it. I was one of the nominee.
Yes, you were.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Well, I know quite a bit about you when you already became successful, but I don't really know how you started your journey. Could you please share with me and with our listeners how did it get started? Basically, take me through your journey.
Oh gosh, how much time do we have? Because
As much time as you need.
it's a journey. That's a good word for it. I'll give you the Cliff's Notes version. So entrepreneurship is something that I think I was always curious about. My parents have dabbled in entrepreneurship. I have a very business-minded family, and I was the kid in the playground selling braided bracelets and Christmas cards and pet rocks and like anything that I could make and market and sell, I would. And what I noticed more than being able to kind of increase my income from my weekly allowance was that it brought people joy, that it brought people together. And it was something to talk about. It was something to engage with each other on. It was something to get excited about. People wanted something to support. And at the time, it was the kid at the pool, or the kid at the playground, or the kid at the park, or wherever I spent my time. And I think I got really interested in making people happy through products or services that they found value in. And that's something that I really brought through me in my professional career, through corporate, through dabbling. I've had a bit of a windy road as far as career choices, but what stuck with me always was this notion of delivering value and being a person of value. And when the time came, I say when the time came, it was kind of like a buildup of life experiences. I was working in an organization, and I had one of the best jobs in the company. I was doing their corporate events. I was traveling the world. I worked very closely with the executive team. And what I realized in working with them was that it's really quite lonely at the top. And when you're trusted to have all the answers and have the direction, and you have hundreds or thousands of employees looking up to you for advice, for guidance, for inspiration, it can be really difficult as the person steering the ship. And like I said, I was privileged to be working really closely and traveling with the executive team. And I saw the behind the scenes of the decision making, of some of the tough calls they had to make, of the heart and soul that goes into not only the customer experience, but the employee experience. And I thought, I want to be able to insert myself in these conversations and add value to more than just the executive team that I'm working with in this company. I want to do that at scale. So how do I do that? And the seed was planted. Okay, maybe a corporate consultant, maybe a coach, maybe I can just start to explore ways in which I can be part of those conversations for other organizations looking to scale their operations, their employee experience, their market share, and ultimately become leaders in their space. So I sat on that for a little bit. And when I realized that I had kind of reached as far as I was going to get in that organization, I started to work for a startup to really get the sense for what is startup life like. And I was selfishly kind of curious, to get some experience in the startup world before starting a business of my own. And I got HubSpot certified, and I learned a lot about what it was like to start a business on someone else's dime, and really, again, brought as much value as I could to that opportunity and learned the ropes of the ins and outs and how challenging it is to get a business off the ground. And unfortunately, it was a marketing agency and they didn't really take off. And so when their doors closed and the company ultimately shut down, I was like, I could look for another job, or I can take this opportunity to really see if I've got something here, if I've got what it takes. And that's what kind of catapulted me into my own journey of entrepreneurship. And oh gosh, how much of the journey do you want? I can keep going.
Keep going. It's really interesting.
All right. So that was kind of the lead up of before, Samantha Kris and the brand and the business. And I got my first paying client, and I was like, are you sure you're willing to give me money for this? I had I wouldn't say a hard time, but it was an interesting time coming to terms with and accepting the fact that my services and the value that I brought is actually something I could charge for. And like many entrepreneurs, I undercharged for a long time, went above and beyond, like slaved ridiculous hours to make them happy, and they were, but I ultimately didn't feel valued because they didn't know what I was doing, how much I was giving to make them successful and to go above and beyond. And there were a lot of lessons learned, but I'd say what really cemented my confidence and started this kind of successful journey, I think the whole journey has been successful, but what really, I guess, put me on the map was when I reached out to Notable, which is an online publication specific to Canada, if I'm not mistaken, and they have a special feature, Entrepreneur of the Day. And I was reaching out on behalf of one of my clients at the time, and they misread the email. They thought I was talking about myself, and they said, you know what? We've taken a look at your website, and we think you'd be a great fit, and we're ready to feature you. And keep in mind, I have one paying client at this time. And I was like, they did not do their due diligence. Is this going to be okay? And all of a sudden, I was kind of plastered across Canada as the entrepreneur of the day. And I thought, now I have to show up. Like, now I have to live up to this name and to this kind of label that they've given me. And I took that with so much pride and so much excitement, and refused to give anyone reason to doubt. Like, I didn't want to give anyone any reason to doubt my ability. And I wanted to officially make a splash as an entrepreneur. Hey, I'm in business. This is what I'm doing now. And I think I kind of took my network by surprise, because it was like, hang on a second, weren't you just with an agency and a company right before that? And all of a sudden I'm saying, hey, this is what I do now, and I'm actually really good at it, and I think you should pay me for it. I learned the hard way that there's a pipeline to be built, and there's
Oh yeah.
some trust that needs to be established. And just because you've had this great article written about you on a website doesn't mean that you are going to be successful overnight. And so there were a lot of learnings, but I'd say that those were the fundamental building blocks, which ultimately kind of got me started in building kind of who I am as you know me today, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. This is extremely interesting. I didn't know all these small details.
Oh, and there are so many more. We just scratched the surface.
So I guess in this case it was kind of a push for you.
It was a push, and it was a tough one, because at the same time that I had lost my job, and I lost my job, everyone lost, like the company had
Hmm.
closed, was the time that I was going through a divorce. And it felt like my whole world was upside down. I was living on my own for the first time. I was out of a 6-year long relationship. I was out of a job. I was starting a new company, because that's what you do, right? When life is,
Yeah.
when life throws you a curveball, you throw a business back in its face. And I was really discovering who I was at that time. And I think it came at a really scary but opportune moment for me, because it was not only starting a business, but it was starting a new chapter, a complete new chapter, where I felt like it was a once in a lifetime opportunity for me to step onto the scene in the way that I did. So did I get everything right? No, but I learned a lot. And I think all of those things were really, really important in getting me to the TED Talk, to the book, to speaking on stages across the world. I mean, these are things that were on my vision board that I was like, oh, wouldn't it be great? And it was that, I think, rough start that really gave me the confidence in my ability to say, well, if I could get through that, then there's nothing I can't do.
This is awesome because yeah, those were like kind of a building blocks for you
Mm-hmm.
that you would stack all together.
Yeah, I just keep stacking. That's like
Yeah,
my life method.
yeah. Well, about your life method, I know that. Well, I actually wanted to ask you, why did you decide to write the Bossing Up book? And then in the book itself, you have that special technique, right?
Yes,
That special, the real goal methodology. Would you
that's
please tell
right.
me more about that?
Sure. So
Because sorry to cut you off, because we went to Indigo with my girlfriend, and now she started r- reading more of a personal development and business books. She's getting into business as well, and we saw your book. So
yay.
yay.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
was.
yeah, yeah. I told her about you, and I know this person. I know you personally. She's like, no way. So that felt really good.
That's awesome. It feels really good for me too. Thank you for sharing that. As far as like why I started the book, so when I started my business, although I knew about corporate and I saw a little glimpse of what it took to start an agency, which is not all, it's not what I was, but you know, good lessons nonetheless. And I was like, you know what? I know the theory, but the actual getting in it and knowing where to start when there's no shortage of ideas and opportunities to reach your demographic, to build your personas, to from free offers to the pipelines to conversions. Like I knew all these things, but where did I start for me? I didn't know. So I hired a business coach of my own, and it just kind of came up. I wasn't even really talking about it from a business perspective, but I was saying, oh, I'm writing this book. And at the time, what I had started writing, which not very many people know this, so this is like almost secret information. I started writing a book called Divorce for Dummies. And it was honestly more of like a therapeutic journaling experience where I was trying to make light of an otherwise really difficult conversation or like situation. And I thought, if my experience can help someone or put a smile on someone's face, then I'd like to write about it and share it. And so I told her about this, and she said, listen, are you planning on coaching and consulting divorcees? And I said, no. She's like, well, at this stage in your professional journey, and as you're starting your own business, your time and your resources are going to be really stretched thin. And any extra time you have, or any time that you're investing in your personal brand, in getting recognition, in establishing clout and authority and trust, should probably be related to the business that you're building and the audience that you want to serve. So if that's not your audience, keep that as a passion project for later. And I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. And I started thinking, well, who is my target audience? Which I had started putting thought into already, considering, I was gearing up to launch a business. And at the same time, I was almost by accident developing this Facebook community, which at the time was called Service Swap. And it was a bartering group, largely Montreal based, which is where I'm from. And I thought, if I'm a struggling entrepreneur in need of legal advice and design skills, and I have marketing skills and PR skills, maybe we can swap and help each other grow. And eventually, hundreds, and even I think I just reached 1,100 people in the Montreal kind of group. And they started saying, you know what, Sam, this is really great. It's been really helpful. But now my business has grown. I don't have to do this for free anymore. Like I'm charging, I'm making money for my services. So is it okay if I use this community for business development? And I was like, yes, absolutely. Let's all grow together. And so that's when the community evolved into Bossing Up. And it really was this idea of pulling through that inner boss, that version of you who wants more, who's capable of more, but doesn't necessarily have the resources today. But with a community, you'll be unstoppable. So then when I started thinking about who am I building this business for, it was the Bossing Up community. And then as I started talking about what really sets me apart as a coach or consultant, my coach said, anyone can be a coach. Like anyone and their mother, sister, dog, neighbor can be a coach these days. You need to have something that'll truly set you apart. Have you considered, do you have another book in you? Because sure, anyone can be a coach, but not everyone is an author. And so I started to kind of dig deep, and I thought about what is the true value that I bring to my clients? And it was this method of goal setting. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to write the book for the same people that I started the group for, which is Bossing Up. And a large part of the focus of the book is the real goal methodology, which is a method that I kind of conceived of when I was starting my business and reflecting back on what are the common denominators that have contributed to my success, to everything that I feel. And success is subjective, right? I mean, it looks and feels different for everyone. But in the times that I felt successful, that I intended to do something and either met or exceeded my expectations, what was present? What could I kind of repeat, copy paste in my life and say, oh yeah, this was present here too, and then give to you and say, Alex, if you do these things, it's going to work, because now, I've got some proof point, I've got some data, and it is the real goal methodology. So I was looking for a goal setting methodology to help me in getting my business off the ground and then ultimately getting in a better place, because I was like at kind of a low when I started. And the goals didn't really mean much. They were extrinsic. They were vain. They were self-serving. And I was like doing them because I thought, well, that's what you do when you read the business blog and you listen to the business podcast. This is what they tell you. And it wasn't working. And I thought, well, what's missing? And I looked back, and what was always apparent were that the goals that I met or exceeded were resonant. So they always were aligned with my core values, with my mission or my why. They were empowering. So I always understood before going in, how do I want this to make me feel? Success is more than money. It's more than exposure. It's more than your client roster. And so if I know that success feels like freedom or happiness or excitement, then I can feel those little bits of success along the journey. And that's what ultimately kept me going in the days where I was like, man, this is hard. I don't want to do this anymore. It was understanding what success feels like, which to me was empowerment, that pushed the ball forward. The third pillar, and I mean, I failed to mention this at the beginning, but REAL is an acronym. So the first letter, R for resonant, E for empowering, A is actionable. So I stole this from the SMART goal method
Smart.
of,
Just wanted to ask about that.
exactly. So bite-sized chunks, right? What can you do today? Not tomorrow, not next week, but what can you do today that will get you closer to your goal? And then you can start thinking about next week, next month, and how this scales. And L is for lucrative. It's about what's in it for you. Because I was finding that when I was setting goals for my future clients, for my prospects, for family, for financial gain alone, I wasn't necessarily understanding what's for me at the end of this tunnel. Like, what am I going to do with those clients? What am I going to do with that money? What am I going to do with the time off or the vacation that I'm working so hard to go on? And it was really understanding the true value of the goal, that, holistically, I stood to see everything that I could gain from achieving this goal. And it was no longer a checklist. It was no longer a post-it on a wall or my vision board. It was a roadmap, and one that was inherently aligned with who I am as a person and what it is that I'm trying to create, that every time I would look at it, I would think, I can't not do it. This is what's going to get me forward. So that's a little bit about, why the book, why the methodology and why the methodology was a big part of not only the book, but the TED Talk that followed.
Yeah, I watched that video from the Tech Talk as well. So I guess it basically means that, well, you wouldn't set the goal for the sake of setting the goal. There's something deeper behind it, something like why would you do it, right?
Exactly.
That's
Exactly it. Because, and this is where I think a lot of us get caught up, is that we set goals for the sake of setting them. We have arbitrary targets. We put these, I don't want to say limitations, but like guardrails up for ourselves and saying, like, this is the way in which I am supposed to operate. And when you peel back the supposed to, when you peel back the expectations and the way you've always done things, and you set goals and act in accordance with your values in why you're doing these things for the first place, you'll be a lot more creative. You'll be a lot more bold. You'll be a lot more confident in your decisions, because it's almost like failure is not an option. It's almost like failure is not even a consideration, because there is no failure in living authentically. There are different paths you can take, maybe quicker paths, maybe windier paths. But when you're, and it sounds a little cheesy, but when you're living your authentic journey, you're more open to seeing where it takes you. And I think that's really, those are the businesses and those are the people that you can pinpoint easily and that truthfully stand out. Like, this is a marketing podcast. If we look at the people who are knocking it out of the park with their personal brands and with their business brands, they're the ones who are really, really clear in the value that they bring and why they got into it in the first place.
Yeah, why is a big part of achieving big things, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that you mentioned about smart goals, I just thought about. I saw a video from Brendan Burchard
Mm-hmm.
where he was talking about dumb goals. So I guess he wanted to, as you just mentioned, I guess he also wanted to flip it, because
Mm-hmm.
people only think about setting, as I mentioned, they set goals just for the sake of setting goals. So in this case, there is something deeper behind it.
And I mean, it's an outdated model. It still works. There's a lot of places where the SMART method still works. If you are looking for process-centric goals, you're looking for, you're reverse engineering a deadline that you need to deliver against, it still has its place. But as far as life-worthy goals, there's got to be something more to it than just specific, measurable, actionable. What is the R? Realistic and
Realistic, yeah.
timely. But like, that boring. Take a nap. Like, life. There's more to
It is
life than
boring.
that.
So true. Yeah, well, I guess businesses are using that kind of strategy pretty much all
Mm-hmm.
day, every day. But to have something bigger like a vision, we should definitely use your methodology.
Hey, I
Hey,
mean, I might be a little biased, but it does work.
pretty sure it does. I mean, it works for you. It works for other people.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. It's what's really, really lovely is I will get messages on LinkedIn or through email from people I've never met from across the world who just so happened to stumble upon the talk and tell me how it has fundamentally changed the way they go about goal setting. And when you think about the goals that we set, some of them are big life-size goals, but the ones that I think are a little underrated are the small goals that get us out of the bad relationship, that get us out of a job we don't like, that get us into an experience we've been too nervous to try or have been putting off for whatever reason. And those are the things that have the power to change us as people, to reroute our paths and to ultimately lead us to a place that we're really happy to get to. And so to play even a small part in people's journey by offering them a tool of looking at their life in a way that they hadn't before, well, I could do that all day.
And that makes a big difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
I know it personally. Well, since the name of this podcast is Marketing Hoax, I'm asking every single person that comes to the podcast that I interview, what kind of marketing strategies or maybe tactics have you used in order to build your brand that you have these days?
So and when I first started, it was really important for me to be everywhere. And I didn't invest a lot of money in being seen and promoting what I was working on. But networking was king or queen, when I started. It was, and even still today, I mean, obviously with COVID, it's a little bit of a challenge, but I wanted to remain top of mind and tip of tongue. I wanted to be synonymous with success coach. You have a goal, you don't know how to achieve it, call Sam. And so every Sankaset, every event, every opportunity to speak, to get on stage, to have my book present and signing, I took, as long as it was, and this is where the goal methodology would always come in handy. Does this event, does this party, does the opportunity to go meet someone or present myself or speak, does that resonate? Yes. And not only will my message resonate with them, but are they the right target audience for me? Because oftentimes there are people who will need your message, but if you have no interest in converting them, is it really the best use of your time? Sometimes it could be, but it's a question that you regularly have to ask yourself, and one that I continue to ask myself with every opportunity. Does it empower me? If I'm like, oh man, I signed up for this thing and I said I'd go, like, that's not empowering. And if that's how I feel going into it, then no thanks. I'm not going to bring my best foot forward. I'm not going to leave a valuable, lasting impression. And then I'm wasting their time at the end of the day too. Is there anything actionable from that opportunity? Will it lead to a new connection? Will it lead to a new idea? Maybe it's just about expanding the way I'm thinking. Will it lead to new business exposure? Will it lead to an opportunity to test a new message? But thinking about what action can I take, always in consideration, and of course lucrative, what's in it for me, which is always at the forefront of my mind as well, which sounds a little selfish, and that's okay, because I have to fill my cup. I have to feel good. I have to feel charged. I have to feel emotionally invested in what it is that I'm doing, because otherwise I'm just going to look and sound like everyone else. And I have no interest in that. So the methodology was equally as applicable in my marketing strategy and the opportunities that I took on. But being everywhere was certainly a strategic move for me, an exhausting one, to be honest. It's a lot. It's a lot to manage because, as I'm sure you know, even when you're showing up as your authentic self, you're still on. You're still looking for opportunities, making connections, making sure you're giving your elevator pitch. You're trying to be memorable. Did I say it all? Did I pack in all the value that I could in this 2 hours I had with this audience? And then, to do that day in, day out, it's a lot. And so I started to think about other ways in which I can be present. And that's really when I started to take my presence online, in developing more online courses, in-person workshops that were promoted online. And I really, really leveraged the power of my community, which they've been my biggest brand advocates, my best lead magnets, and my best promoters in as far as or like I'm more easily able to convert members of the Bossing Up community because they see me the most. They have the most access to me. And whether it's an event that I'm speaking at, a book signing that I'm doing, a program that I'm rolling out, they're the ones that are either going to sign up or tell their colleagues and sisters and neighbors that they've got to sign up, because they've seen firsthand the value that I can deliver and the value that I'm giving for free in the group. And so if that's what I give for free, imagine what value you'll get when you pay. And it's been, I didn't start the group as a community, as a marketing effort, but I quickly realized the potential, and also quickly realized that members were really vocal in saying, this sounds too spammy. This is not a message board. This is a community of people. And so if you treat them like people and you engage as a person and not as a business,
Yeah.
then you'll yield. You'll yield from the trust that you've built, from the relationships that you've nurtured, from the connections that you've made. And anything that I've done, instead of So, excuse me, instead of putting marketing dollars into Facebook ads, Instagram ads, what I'll do is I will run incentives for the group. So if it's whether it was growing the group or an early bird promo, anything that I'm doing, I will put a cash incentive available to one or several members. So invite the most people in, subscribe to my newsletter, have your friends subscribe, and mention your name. And so the people who kind of go out and fish for me are entered to win, whether it's a gift card or cash prize or something, a ticket to one of my events. And that's been really helpful because I'm targeting the right audience, a very specific niche audience, as opposed to paying Facebook and saying, try your best to nail down the right people and let's hope they convert. When you have word of mouth marketing, I mean, people trust their friends, their colleagues. And if they're the ones saying, I really think you'd benefit from this upcoming course or this book or this talk, they're more inclined to listen. And so I've become really good at kind of creating a virtuous cycle with my community of adding value, understanding their needs, continuing to deliver, nurturing them, and then going in for the ask. And then it kind of starts all over. Like you can't just stop after the ask. So long story short, they've been my best marketing vehicle, I suppose, that has gotten me to the success that I've achieved.
Well, your group, you did an amazing job with your group. I can,
Thank you.
I can say it myself because I started a group with my previous marketing agency about 3 years ago. We tried something, but we were doing it in kind of a spammy way. We would invite all the friends, come join, and didn't we didn't really do much in terms of the content. And then when I started from the beginning, I didn't actually have a group. I was part of another group, and then the admin, because I was posting in that group, I was posting a lot of content. The admin messaged, I think she made a post or messaged me that she couldn't handle the group anymore, and she asked who wants to take it. So I just messaged her, like I could take it over. So that's how I got that group that I have right now, the Power of Digital Marketing.
Cool.
Yeah, it was fun. Didn't was there for a while. I need to go. I need to get back to it with all this craziness. But yeah, the thing that you said about your group, just like I was doing with that group, I wanted to bring value to people because I know I have a lot of information, and I know that in order for me to get new information, I need to share with the information that I already have with other people.
Right.
So I can kind of free my mind and get other information in. And yeah, I was posting. That's how I was. I think that was my nomination, right?
I think so.
Yeah. I think it was the Human Wikipedia,
Yes, Human
something like that. Yeah,
Wikipedia. Yeah. As
yeah,
like the
and
go-to guy.
yeah. And yeah, at some point I started getting referrals from the group, and at the end of the day, I think I got like 2 or 3 clients. So thank you.
Great. That's the idea, is like when we go in and we engage and we genuinely want to share knowledge and experience and connect with people, then you are the person that's top of mind when someone's looking for marketing advice or for digital marketing advice more specifically. And the group has actually been a great source of business for a lot of members, and I'm really grateful because it helped, well, selfishly, it helps me to say this is a place where you can come and get value, and you just have to show up as yourself. Like, no expectations. You're allowed to promote your business. You're allowed to promote your wins, the things you're excited about, so long as you're engaging as a human, because a lot of us are on a very similar entrepreneurial journey, or at least there are a lot of things in which we can relate. There are a lot of things which we can empathize with each other on. And the people who take advantage of that, whether it's the Boss Hemp community or any other community, will win. The people who show up as themselves and engage as themselves and are looking to constantly add value for others, rather. Yeah, those are the ones who are going to come out of not just COVID, but they're the ones who are going to win the game.
100%. Well, in the beginning, I mentioned during the introduction that you're the head of marketing of Goldcast right now. That
Yes, that's a
you
new development.
yeah, that's something that you started recently, as I understood.
Yes, it's a COVID development. I had actually been speaking with them for a long time, since last year. I was one of the speakers at one of their events, I think 2 years ago, and I met the team. I had been a longtime fan of the brand before I even knew it was a Montreal company.
Oh, seriously, it's
And
a Montreal company?
yeah,
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
it's a Montreal company. And I knew someone who worked there, and I saw a couple people I knew speak at the first event, and I was like, I want to speak there. How do I get involved? And there was no formal process at the time, and it was kind of like, all right, well, send us over some suggestions and we'll bring it to the team and see which one they liked. And I was approved as a speaker for the second event. And again, I met the team, and it was just like, I just loved what they were building, and I was so grateful to be part of it. And I stayed in touch with a few people there. And um, eventually, one of them reached out and was like, hey, would you be interested in seeing like what it might be like to collaborate with Goldcast? And like, no further explanation or like no other details. But I was like, oh, I love this brand. Like, yeah, well, sure. Well, let's see where this goes. And at the time, they were like, you know what? We're building our A team. And I said, okay, well, that sounds exciting. What does that mean? And they're like, we just want A players. Like, we're not even looking at role specifically. We're looking at people and who would be the best fit. And I thought, okay, well, that's cool. And we had been talking for a long time, and weird circumstances kept putting on each other's radar. Like, I would bump into the founders at the airport, and then we were on the same flight and they sat like right behind me. And then I would bump into them at a Christmas party, and like life just kept putting each other on each other's paths. And I thought, okay, let's seriously have this conversation to see where this is going, because this is too weird to ignore. So we had kind of been like talking but not moving the ball and anything
Mhm.
really. And then I thought, okay, let's talk business. Let's see where this goes. And I mean, I started in May officially, and it has been so fun. So fun. The company is every bit as wonderful as I imagined, when I was not knowing them, watching their stories on my Instagram feed, and just totally blown away by their mission is so visible. It's so felt in everything that they do and all the videos that they put out. And it's equally as felt in the culture, in the company. And I've stepped away. I had stepped away from marketing for a little bit. I mean, very clearly marketing myself and my own business, but not doing marketing in a marketing role for a number of years. So I'm happy. I'm happy to see that I've still got it. I'm still able to lead a team and to add value and to have so much fun while doing it. So to be determined. It's the beginning of this chapter, and it's one I'm really excited about.
Oh, that's awesome. Really, really interesting to know. Because when I saw that on, I think on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
I was surprised. I was like, oh wow, you're the head of marketing, podcast. Nice.
I kind of think that too. I'm like, oh wow, that is nice.
It definitely is. Well, I actually wanted to ask you. I'm pretty sure people are interested. Where can they get your book, Bossing Up? Is it on Amazon? I know that we can get it on Indigo, in Indigo, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's Indigo chapters, Coles. I'm pretty sure you can find it on Barnes and Noble, if I'm not mistaken, on Amazon.ca.com. And what I find really interesting when I have these types of conversations, and people are like, so what was your journey, and like how did you become successful, and like what brought you here? It's it's fun to tell the story, but I mean, at the end of the day, and this is not so exciting, but it is what it is, the only reason that I've made it anywhere is because I haven't been afraid to ask. I asked to be a speaker at the Goldcast event. I asked to apply for TEDx. I asked to have my book on the shelves at Chapters. And I mean, yes, you need to have tight messaging. You need to have a brand that to support you in whether that's a personal brand or a business brand. Um, and so the marketing matters. The way you show up matters. The messaging, the way that you communicate your value matters. And if you've got that lined up, don't be afraid to ask, because it's literally the only door opener. People are not knocking on my door saying, oh my gosh, we want to have your book on our stores. Like, I wish that was the case, but no, the reality is me knocking on their door saying, hey, I've got this book that I'm pretty proud of, and it's been selling, in different areas, different stores that it's in, and I think it's worth your while. Would you want to check it out? And you know that's what's worked. It's not like a magic pill. It's not a secret sauce. It's not anything where I can be like, this is the key to success. It's like, just friggin' ask.
And
What's
work.
the worst that could happen? And work for sure.
Well, yeah, I guess this is the secret to success. Just
I
work,
guess so. I guess
work
that's
your
it.
ass. Yeah, one step at a time, and well, you can get there one day.
Yeah. And I mean, one day, right? Like, this is not where I was like 5, even 3. I had started my business 4 years ago, and I was not known before then. I was working in corporate. I had a very, very different life. And I mean, what a difference a couple of years makes. Like, it's all possible. It's just, how bad do you want it, and do you know why? Close full circle. Do you know your why? And if
I know
so,
you're right. Yeah,
take action.
there's just sometimes I do know my why, but as you mentioned, sometimes you're either stuck or something happens and you're not in the mood, and you're sitting there and thinking, do I really need it? But you know your why. Yes, you do need it because you know your why.
I mean, there have been moments too where I question, do I need this, or is the right path? It's not always super obvious. It's not like, okay, I know my why, therefore this is how I get there. The how and the what is often blurry. It's unclear. We don't know. It's fragmented. It's broken even sometimes, and we have to put the pieces together. But I think where the why helps is in reinforcing your ability to figure it out. If you don't know what you're going to do, if you don't know how you're going to get there, but you know why it matters, like, just give it a little time to marinate, give it a little time to sink in, and to get creative and brainstorm and ask people, listen, observe, and it'll come together. But if you're walking around aimlessly, not knowing your why, looking at all the what and the how, like, it'll never come into focus. And so it's really important, I think, to understand. And I don't mean like you need to have your life's purpose figured out. Like, that's a lot of pressure. You just need to know, before you embark on something, why do you want to do it? Why does it matter? And if it doesn't matter, don't waste your time. There are other things. Like, life's too short. There are other things you could be spending your time on. It doesn't have to be from a business perspective. That will bring you happiness. And I mean, I don't know. For me, that's what matters. It's like, if I'm happy doing things, who cares if it's the wrong what or the wrong how? If it brought me joy,
Yeah, and
worth it.
fulfillment. Yeah, yeah. I guess these two things are the most important. And
You
you
don't
don't
look so
have
convinced. You're like, I
and
guess so.
no, because I was thinking about this. Like, I had these big goals, and I still have them. But that's why I said I have these big goals, and I have my whys at the same time. And they're smart goals. At the same time, they're kind of dumb goals. If we're gonna take like as an example of Brent Bouchard, as he was talking about, um, but yeah, sometimes you just get stuck, and I'm like, do I really need all that? I'm
Yeah, well,
really
you're
happy with
stuck
what I.
because they might be smart or they might be dumb, but are they real? Are they
Yeah,
real?
yeah.
Try the real goal method on for size and let me know.
That's what I'm gonna do. Well, thanks a lot for being on the podcast. I really appreciate your time. I guess I said it a couple of times because I really do. Uh, it's big, because time is the most valuable asset that we have, and you sharing it with me means a lot to me.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun.